Welcome to NFL Daily, where we've done it. We have reached the best slate of the season. I'm Gregg Rosenthal here in the Chris Wesseling podcast studio with my friends Patrick Claybon and Steve Wyche. I've done a scientific breakdown.
Oh.
No, it's just off vibes. I think this is it. I think this is the slate I'm most excited for all season long.
But let me ask you this. Are you more excited for the slate or the fact that Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft
The answer is no.
are finalists together to go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame potentially
Okay, let's start here.
in January?
Do you know a lot about the voters?
I do.
Do you think that they'll be more likely to vote them in together because they want to see that messiness, or less likely because it's weird or a distraction?
No, I think they would bring them in together. I honestly can't see how they would put in one, knowing the voters, put in one and not the other, because Robert Kraft should have been in.
Right. I could see how they would, because to me, Bill Belichick is, one of the greatest coaches of all time, and Robert Kraft has been waiting to get in year after year.
should have been in.
He's an owner,
I think they both will go. If you're going to put in one, I think you're going to put in two scoops. The Patriots will play in the game, so if Vrabel can be there, it could be a whole weekend in Canton full of mass.
I would like to request officially to iHeart, Matt Schneider, whoever is out there listening, I want to go to that weekend. Steve still needs to go. Everyone else still needs to go. Just tack me on. I will go in Steve's luggage. I can fit.
A perfect summation of all of the circumstances where it's a great accomplishment by the New England Patriots, just adorned by a whole bunch of mess and everybody will ignore.
Yes.
And we'll talk about it's like, oh yeah, this team's dealing with a distraction. It's chaos. It's like people punching each other, houses on fire, and it's like, yeah, the Patriots win again. Perfect way to sum it all.
How awesome would it be? Like, you got first ballot guys like Drew Brees and Larry Fitzgerald. Luke Kuechly should be going in. Torrey Holt, all these guys. Can you imagine being like overshadowed by that?
I think that group of guys can absolutely imagine being overshadowed by the New England Patriots.
Yes,
That's fair.
That's
and yet,
true.
you know what? More
They felt it for real.
Hey, let's be real. More attention on that weekend in general, I think, will be even better for the greats like Breeze and Fitzgerald. But yes, the slate. And it's not about having every game 1 to 16 perfect. And in fact, there's 4 bye teams this week. It's the last bye week. It's more about having great games at each part of the schedule. So we started off with a banger, Cowboys-Lions on Thursday night. In the early window, which we're going to talk about on this show, we got Steelers-Ravens, we got Burrow versus Josh Allen, and we got a battle for the top of AFC South. 3 really good ones all at once. In the late window, one of the biggest, most interesting games of the year, Bears and Packers, a real test for the Bears to decide that division. And then the next 2 primetime games, Texans, Chiefs, and Eagles. It's just spread out
so
where
good.
This is it. I'm all in.
Yeah, even when, right, because obviously the direct impact on the others' playoff hopes for these games in the division, but the non-divisional games having direct impact as well. So looking forward to it. Cannot wait. We start with a team that is moving in the wrong direction, at least on offense. The Baltimore Ravens, favored by 6, though, because the Pittsburgh Steelers are also moving in the wrong direction on offense. We're talking meetings and hand signals this week, Greg. Jim Nantz and Tony Romo on the call. Can Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith and the Steelers offense get it sorted out against the Ravens defense?
I don't think so, because the most consistent side in this game right now, and I'm counting over the last 4 to 6 weeks, is the Ravens defense.
Which
it is
crazy.
It's funny how seasons just change. This happens all the time, too. They're the group I kind of trust to stifle a struggling side, and that's what the Steelers offense is. So they're the group that makes me feel good about the Ravens in this game.
First off, I can't see the 6. I mean, the 6, this is a rivalry game. Neither one of these teams has shown any type of consistency, which makes you think, even when you say the Ravens defense, like they're going to get a pick 6, like you just haven't seen it. I think it's going to be a closer game. It's interesting, though, when you say about the Ravens defense, you look at the stats of that game against Cincinnati, and you're like, that was a disaster. I mean, they allowed the Bengals to run 90 plays. Remember, they turned it over 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen again in this game. And I do think that Gregg Roman got a talking to, like, get the ball to 22. And based on what we just saw the Bills do to the Steelers running the football, why wouldn't you? I mean, you give up 250 rushing yards, the most ever at Acrisure Stadium since back when it was Three Rivers or Riverfront, whatever, which one it was. I just think it's going to be an ugly ball game. I'm going to be covering this game for NFL Network. I'll be there with Baldy. But I just Pittsburgh, man, there's nothing about them right now that looks good, Patrick.
Well, the thing that you would hope to have, right, for the Baltimore Ravens is you'd like to be able to win a boring game,
right,
where you average 5 yards a carry. The Ravens don't do that. No. The Ravens live on explosive plays. Lamar is going to hunt explosive plays even when he's not 100%. And when they don't get those, they press, they do weird things, they turn the ball over like they did against the Cincinnati Bengals. The bright side is the Pittsburgh Steelers on offense have completely forgotten how they're going about things. They have a goal-to-go situation against Buffalo, and Aaron's throwing the hand signals. They're having conversations about hand signals. Why don't you hand the ball off?
Just give it.
Why don't you give the ball to Jalen Warren in that instance, get another touchdown? They're in that game. Instead, we're having these weird discussions. Aaron holding on to the ball. Aaron hasn't held on to the ball all season long, where I don't know, if the bloody nose, does that convince Aaron to change his ways in this game? It's two offenses where I don't feel comfortable either way.
I don't either, but I just trust it, like I said, in the Ravens defense a little more. The only problem with what you were saying about Derrick Henry, you're absolutely right. And they're not going to have Justice Hill in this game. He's going to be out maybe up to a month, according to John Harbaugh. He's a good backup, but so is Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah, Keaton Mitchell.
No Derek Harmon in this game either, who has really helped out the Steelers' run defense. And some of the people that cover the team believe that was a big factor last week, why they struggled without Derek Harmon. I don't know if I trust the Ravens' running game because I've seen some stuff you look at the yards per carry, it's pretty good. If you look at success rate, if you look at consistency, I drew up all the different numbers that you could, whether it's EPA or success rate, everything over the last 4 weeks, divided pass, run, and it's all very consistent. It's all very consistently mediocre. Yeah. It's all a little below average. Everything is you're the 20th best offense in the league, no matter what type of metric you want to use. And man, that's an offensive line problem. That's a play calling problem because I don't think it's a Derrick Henry problem.
Well,
maybe a little.
I don't want to say it's a Derrick Henry problem, but and Patrick, you're a Ravens fan. This is as finesse as we have ever seen them look. I mean, their offensive line gets reset.
That's what I mean.
They don't have any let's just line it up and whoop them anymore. And it's, again, this is a rivalry game, so maybe we'll see some of that a little bit on both sides. I'm not sure because the one thing about the Steelers, when you watch them, and it's like an every other week thing, their defensive guys can't get off blocks. I mean, when you watch that game against Buffalo, they were locked on like they had Velcro. And what Buffalo did with two backup offensive tackles whipped them.
Yeah, but Mike Tomlin says they're going to go back to being physical this week. They're going to they're going to double down on physicality.
How does that work?
It hasn't.
I'd really be interested in a follow-up question on. So it's try harder.
Yeah,
like you guys didn't try to be physical last week.
So the 26th zone run carry for James Cook is not a point where it's hey guys, have we considered effort? No, I think they have, especially because Steve mentioned getting off the blocks. I don't think it's as much of a problem because we've talked about the Rosengarten Falele adventure over on the right side, where anytime they're required to move, things go wrong. And you want Derrick Henry to build up that speed because he and Lamar, typical they are home run hitters. If the option is maybe lose a couple yards or get 25, those guys are going to try to hit the 25 yards every time. But when things are so uncertain on the right side of the line, it makes it tough for them.
I think Lamar looked better last week. He certainly ran better. He didn't play well at all in that game. That was one of the worst games considering where he's at, having won 2 MVPs of his career, considering his stature. But what I mean is just physically, he moved pretty well. There were a couple plays where he let it go and he ran by people. But I think it's a great point you make, Patrick, of just hunting the big plays. They just don't have anything beyond Zay Flowers that's consistent for them. And even Zay Flowers, there's a miscommunication every game where you're not exactly sure where Zay Flowers is going. But at least he produces. Otherwise, you have no idea who's going to be that second leading receiver.
You're right. The tight end play has not been what it's been in the receiving game as well. So that's an issue. But all that said, I still think the Ravens offense, looking at what the Steelers defense was last week and several times this season, that's an issue.
I feel like it could. I've seen these seasons. They are so long. I still think it could change. I just believe it needs to change.
That the Steelers defense could ramp up, or
that the Ravens offense can ramp.
Oh yeah.
That it can still happen. You're covering this game. You've been around, like, you know people inside these buildings. How confident are you that John Harbaugh would be back? Let's say if they went
very
9-0.
Very. It's one of these things.
Okay.
Like who you got? I mean, this is the one thing. Like with the Tomlin conversation. Like I'm not going to sit here and say that he should stay or should go, but you better have a bird in the hand.
Right. But Harbaugh, I think, is a more interesting one. They've gone 12 seasons now since that last Super Bowl. I think the front office isn't going anywhere.
No.
Would they ever think that, hey, is this the guy? Do we ever want to see Lamar Jackson with a different head coach in his entire career? This would seem like a time. If it would have to go south.
That'd be an interesting dynamic because those two have a relationship.
And I know it's time to move on, but I did want to point out this is the highest playoff leverage game yet of the entire NFL season based on Aaron Schatz's numbers. If the Ravens win, they have a 70% chance to make the playoffs. If the Steelers win, they have a 75% chance to make the playoffs, whereas the loser is in the low 20s. So it really swings. I guess it's not too shocking because basically these two games between these two teams, if one of them sweeps them, they're going to the playoffs.
Right.
If they split, we'll see. And so whoever gets that first one has a monster edge.
And there's no wild card coming out of this division.
Agree.
And a coach's job is on the line, perhaps,
yes.
according to Gregg Rosenthal.
I think more likely in Baltimore. I think it's possible.
Yeah. They did, if we're talking about matching up with the quarterback, they did play footsie with the quarterback's contract not too long ago, so perhaps not anything is out of the realm of possibility. Let's go to the team that beat the Baltimore Ravens at home on Thanksgiving. Joe Burrow is back, and the next team in the AFC that's a contender that's worried about Joe Burrow, which is a yearly tradition, late. It is the Buffalo Bills, who are 5.5 points favorites. The over-under is 52.5, Steve, after they ran all over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is the test to see if this Bengals defense is what they have shown us the past couple of weeks. Is it real or is it a mirage? I think Buffalo will have a chance to show us the truth here.
Buffalo will have it there, and the offense is going to have a chance because that defense is still leaky, even though the Steelers couldn't do some things. Now Joey Bosa looks like he's going to be out with a hamstring injury. Look, anytime Joe Burrow is in the game, that changes the dynamic on both sides of the ball for the Bengals. The game's in Buffalo. This is one where I just think Josh Allen, this run game, continues to go, and they set some things up. In the passing game, I just think they feel very confident they're going to be able to run the ball on Cincinnati, which they should be able to do.
I think people slept on that Buffalo win as a potential, like, galvanizing, season-changing type of win. I mean, they just slapped around another,
destroyed them.
Team in a very just muscular type of way. I feel like that's something that you can build off Eric Roberts. I know they're not high-flying passing like they used to be, but that's something, and they've been a good running team all year, and there's every reason to believe that they will be in this game, despite the Bengals, yes, Patrick, having pretty solid numbers since the bye. Their defensive numbers are okay, and that's all I think Bengals fans want is the defensive numbers since the bye in those 3 games against some pretty good opponents, including the Patriots, are around average, a little lower than average, but not terrible. And all you got to do is keep it close now for Joey B, because Buffalo's defense is not 100%. That Bosa injury to me is really important for them.
Yeah, I talked about the Baltimore Ravens being, big play hunters on offense. The Buffalo Bills on defense rely on the big plays, the sacks, the turnovers to get off the field and have had trouble going back a couple of years in dealing with explosive players on offense. And Jamar Chase is a problem for a lot of people.
T. Higgins is back at practice.
T. Higgins is back, too.
We don't know that for sure.
Right, in terms of practicing.
Most likely he will be out of the protocol by the time this game happens because he's on that track.
Ooh. Joey B.
Against a good pass defense, though, on paper.
Yeah, on paper. A good pass defense. And you want to talk about paper. I went into the numbers to try to find a good comp because on-off stats can be kind of revealing, especially late in the season. A very good wide receiver like Puka Nacua. The success when he's on the field is 51.9%. in the pass game,
Mhm.
44 when he's off.
Sure.
How about the much maligned Keon Coleman? The Bills have a 51.6 offensive success rate when Keon is on the field. When he's not, it's down to 41.6. So the ticks are gone. He got back on the field, Greg, and turns out the Bills are better when their best wide receivers play.
Stop. This is just where if you throw enough numbers against the wall, like trends happen. It's just random. It's based on the opponent.
Yeah, I mean, they played the Texans. And Khalil Shakir is their best wide receiver, by the way.
I mean, you could say
they played the Texans without Keon Coleman.
By that logic,
Right,
you could say, hey, the Bills' running game when Brandon Cooks is on the field is awesome because they're 1-for-1 when Brandon Cooks is on the field running the ball.
I just think because we've talked about the button the past few weeks. And so when your pass game,
what's the button for the uninitiated?
The button for the uninitiated is when the Bills are struggling on offense, and it's, hey, Josh.
Yeah. We need you right now,
it's
buddy.
Joe Brady in his ear. All right, we're going to snap the ball to you. Go
for it.
Because there was a goal to go play, the Keon Coleman touchdown, where nothing was there. Josh has to do one of his patented pump fakes, gets a defender to jump, he runs for 3 or 4 seconds and hits Keon Coleman in the back of the end zone, where if you're watching on YouTube, you see they're lifting him up, celebrating with Dawson Knox. That's it. Other than the zone run game, it's just Josh, and sometimes Josh is the run game, where he has like a weird play where he's running over people, goes in the end zone straight up, just being used as a touchdown scoring weapon by his offensive lineman.
Great.
Where it's great, but
no team asks more of their quarterback than
seriously.
And he's shown the weight of that, I think, at times this season, even recently, where he's not been at his best because I think he's hunting, he's trying to do too much, and he knows he has to do it all.
I was at that game in Houston. I was in the Bills locker room afterwards, and he was beat up, man.
Yeah.
They roughed him up.
We probably aren't getting Trey Hendrickson back, though, for this game. And, yes, the Bengals are only 2 games back. They will, in the division, they will stay 2 games back with 4 to play. So that's hard to
it could be a tie.
Catch up on. It could be a Ravens-Steelers tie. But they will only be 1 back.
It very well could be
0-0.
They could be angling to that second-place schedule there. It's a fun – considering the records in this game, this is still a fun game. And
it's a great game.
I love it.
Especially Burrow. Doesn't Burrow get the best of Josh?
In general, the Bengals have had their share of success, especially, they did it in the playoffs too, against the Bills during these 2 coaches' tenures.
Looking forward to that one, but we also have a great game in the AFC South, which people might have forgotten about a few weeks ago, but the Texans and the Jags have made things interesting. It is the Colts who are favored still by 1.5 points, Greg, against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Duval. 47.5 is the over-under. Ian Eagle and Justin James Watt are on the call. We wish Dimes was healthy and moving around, but the team that's looking healthy and moving up the standings is the Jacksonville Jaguars right now.
I think I'm going to have to get this game. I got to watch this game. I love this division. I'm fascinated.
It's become very, very great, hasn't it?
The Colts are not the profile of a team in collapse.
No.
They've been close in these games. Daniel Jones practicing fully on Wednesday. When I saw that they were favored earlier in the week, I just assumed that game's in Indianapolis. Not a lot of belief, apparently, in terms of the numbers with Jacksonville. And I get it, because the Jaguars are just so unpredictable, inconsistent, despite Daniel Jones' injuries, and the running game hasn't been as good lately. I still do think that this offense is going to have its share of good days. They're not playing the Texans this week, and that's the side of the football I trust the most in this game.
I thought they looked good against Houston. I thought Daniel Jones looked really good physically against Houston. I mean, they were heating him up with 4, but they were heating him up, and I thought he played well. Thought Jonathan Taylor ran the ball well at times. You're seeing Patrick's favorite player right there, Alec Pierce. All he does is get touchdown.
Bossing 2 people.
Him and Tyler Warren. I mean, I'm with this. I like the Colts in this game, and frankly, the Colts have to win this game. It's the first of 2. They have not played Jacksonville yet, so they play them later in the season.
Mm-hmm.
But the Colts' schedule,
brutal.
It is brutal. The final 5 games, they cannot fall in a game like this into which they're favored, seeing as to who is coming up, because it is a murderer's row, which is why now I think, especially if Houston beats Kansas City, Sunday, 2 teams from the South are going to go, and one of them might not be the Colts just because their schedule is so rugged. They've got to get this game.
And both these teams should be happy to play each other because you have a chance if you could sweep the opposition.
Correct.
Basically, that punches a ticket to the playoffs. I do worry about the Colts defense not being able to do as much cool things as they would if Sauce Gardner was on the field and DeForest Buckner's on the field. And I know the Jaguars have had plenty of injuries. A lot of teams have injuries. But the Colts, there's just a drop-off from their star players, and those were 2 of their best players, obviously, on the defense.
Yeah, the acquisition of Sauce is what helps you. Yep. It's like, okay, that's the piece. The piece on defense where they get a big opportunity for a playmaker, and they don't know how long-term this calf injury is going to be, and you have to be concerned anytime somebody's got a lower calf injury of how things are going to go. No word on the officiality of the time frame yet.
They're not going to put him on injured reserve, according to Ian Rapp.
But I mean, I'm saying this jokingly, but also seriously. A team from Indiana who's got a star player with a calf injury. We just saw it in the NBA Finals with Tyrese Halliburton. They're not trying to have this much calf trauma going on with their athletic teams. So, and I will say this, I'm glad you mentioned Sauce Gardner. One of the best trade acquisitions we have seen is Jacoby Myers coming down to Jacksonville. So now they've got 2 threats on the outside that could really stress out this Colts defense.
Yeah, perhaps it's friend of the pod, Liam Cohen, listening to our conversation over the course of the season about the struggles by these Jags receivers on in-breakers, where you had the best in-breaking receiver on the team in Britton Strange goes down for multiple weeks in the middle of the season, and the offense looks lost. I tried to find an on-off split for Britton Strange. It didn't match the agenda, so I left that alone. But the wins come, and Jacoby Myers has the career long on an in-breaker where Trev looks more comfortable. The run game is not what it was during those stretches. So you kind of, maybe I'm wish casting here. I'm starting to worry about my pick of the Jags, but want to see those things work in unison.
But it's weird. The running game, you're right, has, after a great start, has been mostly MIA. But 2 weeks ago, it lit up. They were awesome. And Etienne and Tootin are a good combo, so you just don't know what you're going to get from a week-to-week basis with this team. But they're a team in Jacksonville that can look across the field at the Colts, and they can say, this team has been on the field for, it's around 165 snaps the last 2 weeks. That is outrageous. Yeah. First of all, they should just be tired. I mean, that's just a lot. Second of all, it shows a team that just can't get off the field, that's just giving up third down after third down, short yardage situations, and think that's the way to beat the Colts, because I think it's been effective against them the last couple of weeks where, Daniel Jones, they'll have a 3-and-out or 2, and suddenly it's like that's the whole half. You cannot get the ball back for this Colts team.
That's a great point. That's a great point because you saw it against Houston. I mean, Houston, they were in third down so many times, and whether they ran it, whether Stroud did something with it, they made the play, which is so defeatist to a defense. Like, man, we had him again.
Mm-hmm.
We're here again, especially the guys up front, who are getting pounded on. Leotu Latsi's playing well. But, you saw so many tackles on third down that were followed by this, the first down signal, that stuff. But I think this is going to be a really good game. But it is a must-get for the Colts because their schedule is no joke.
The defensive players, if I was trying to think, what can we count on for the Jags? Their defense has been playing better lately. It's been up and down throughout the course of the season. But Josh Hines-Allen and Devin Lloyd are playing really well.
Lloyd coming back helps set the table for them.
Yeah, he's really helped them. And Hines-Allen the last 2 weeks combined 18 pressures.
18?
18 is
that's a season.
That's a crazy
2
weeks with 3 sacks and a couple more quarterback hits mixed in. So it's not just hurries. The Jaguars were down a couple offensive linemen in that game. I'm looking at the practice report on Wednesday, and it looks like Walker Little, their left tackle, is out. Patrick McCarry is on the field, so that would be good to get one guy back. He's in a non-contact jersey. Parker Washington is out. And you mentioned that Myers 50-yard catch. You know what I caught my eye on that one?
What's that?
How about Brian Thomas Jr. sprinting down the field to get a great block? He's back on the field, and he's playing hard. I think it's a matter of time before he has some big moments, too. I know it's been a quiet season, but I like Brian Thomas.
Hey, man, those others can elevate you, especially if they play in your position group.
Man, Colts got to win this game.
They have to win this game.
Nervous for them.
I'm telling you, their schedule is ugly.
But the Jaguars have been surprising us all year, and both these teams are great stories. They're both 8-4. We would have never expected that, but that's the problem of winning early. It raises the expectations. And that's what we did on this show. We won early with Steve Wyche.
Yeah.
Just a thin, beautiful part of the show with Steve Wyche this time. We're going to say goodbye to you.
Appreciate you having me.
But we loved having you. Patrick and I are going to talk about the rest of these early games. And I can't wait. One of the best teams in the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks, after the break. Back on NFL Daily. Said goodbye to our great friend, Steve Wyche.
Yes.
Another big-time segment with Patrick Claybon. And then the afternoon games, in the primetime games, we got Bill Barnwell coming up. It's a cast of thousands on this preview show.
There's quality individuals on this show and me.
No.
I think that's a fun note. It's a fun personal note, Greg.
This is where I need you to shine, because the back half of the early games, not as shiny as they may have looked back in September.
You know, the sheen is coming off of the gleaming armor that is my shield robot status. So I will cape for every single one of these games, including Kirk Cousins at home, where the Seattle Seahawks are a 7-point favorite. The over-under is 44.5. Kevin Kugler and Moose Johnston on the call. We saw Kirk having a lot of success in the short passing game against the Jets.
Wow. Wow.
Are there yards available against the Seahawks defense, Greg?
Look, these first few games actually in this section are important because Seattle's got to keep winning to keep up with the Rams. And one thing, when I was thinking about like big picture Seattle is not only have they taken care of all these games, they haven't been close usually. Like that is one of my definitions of a truly great team. Like they don't even make you sweat it. Minnesota last week obviously was an example, but if you look in all these games where they were significantly favored, it's a rare one where they even had to sweat out the fourth quarter. So I think about like what do they need to work on. I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to be much problems for the defense. It's more about the offense. That's a tougher matchup. Can we get another Sam Darnold game? Can we get back to the guy that in this very studio, Patrick, we awarded him the first half of the season MVP just for his play.
I mean, you go
and he earned it.
You look at those first 10 weeks of the season. Yeah, it was legitimate. You start in the Rams game and you go back to that point where you've got 4 interceptions and 2 touchdowns through the air over these past few games, and now it's we were at the point where Jackson Smith and Jigba was well in the conversation, but because of
he's still there.
He's still there.
One bad week, and that wasn't his fault. It doesn't kill him.
But that's the thing. One bad week when we got this Drake May situation going on is rough, at least in terms of my model in that conversation. But now it's a matchup against AJ Terrell, who's one of the best in the league, in terms of yards per target allowed. So. If we're going to snap Sam out of the doldrums of whatever this is going on for the Seahawks passing game, this will be the one that shows the people, hey, everything's okay.
And I don't think anything's overly wrong. Like I say a lot, it's often about the schedule. You played 2 of the best defense in the league, and this is what happens. But I did find it interesting that Brian Flores said before that game, we're going to blitz the hell out of him. Like, that's what we do, but we're going to really do it against Sam Darnold. And they did. 63% they blitzed against him. And that's a guy who knows Sam Darnold as well as anyone, having coached with him. And Atlanta is a team built to possibly do that. So I think it's a tricky matchup. The Falcons defense actually played, for the most part, pretty well against the Jets. I know they haven't been great, but they've been very good all season. And I do want to see that Seattle running game keep it going, too, because I made a point on this show. I don't know if you remember this. There was a drive against the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And I said this is the drive that maybe turned around their running game for the season. So this morning, I went and checked. Since that game, they are top 10 in EPA per play and success rate, 9th, 10th in those 2 stats. So maybe that drive really did turn around. They've been a little more consistent with their guy, Ken Walker, who's a lot of fun to watch.
I'm glad me giving you grief after the disaster against the Rams for the Seahawks run game, where it has caused you to go back into that. Because you didn't even remember. But
I don't remember these shows.
No, I was right. And Patrick was wrong.
Do you remember the show as well? Because Jordan will say, "Oh, I said this then," or "You said that then," and I just let it all wash over me in the moment. I guess
I only remember when we disagree. That's the only time I remember. Smile because
hard to disagree on this one.
Yeah, no.
Show up, Atlanta.
We're in lockstep. Yeah, let's get the Kirk Cousins game because it did not necessarily happen against the New Orleans Saints a couple of weeks ago. Now the New Orleans Saints are on the road against Baker and the Bucs. The Bucs are favored by 8.5. Kevin Harlan and Trent Green are on the call. They opened Mike Evans' 21-day practice window.
Nice.
Not sure if we're going to get Mike back in this one, but there were some late flashes from Tyler Shuck and these cardiac Saints, enough to scare Baker and company, Greg?
They could. This Tampa team is so confusing. They have won 4 out of their 7 games. In those games, they've been outgained. Okay? They have been outscored this year by 22 points. They are not a profile of a team that's normally 7-5. And yet, Mike Evans coming back, Jalen McMillan coming back, maybe end of the season. Kalijah Cansey could be coming back. They already got Hassan Reddick back. And yet last week it was another one of those games when I went back to rewatch it. It was just like, what is this team? It was great to see Bucky Irving. He really helps them out. But it's another game where, the Cardinals outgain them by about 100 yards. And there were like a lot of things to like. I think there's a possibility that this Bucs team, and they've actually done this a few times, are considerably better, and that they're the team that we thought they would be all season in the playoffs when it matters, which is what you want if you're the Bucs. That they've kind of gotten lucky to get this far, and yet none of it might matter because they're scheduled the rest of the way. There's a lot of games where they'll be heavily favored. They're getting healthier, and maybe they kind of crank it up at the last second, and they're still right in the mix.
The one place that's most concerning, though, about the health status is Baker Mayfield and that left shoulder. I can't help but think about the torn labrum in his left shoulder that almost ended his career because for some reason the Browns kept running him out there when he was hurt, and then the opportunities were limited after that. He's been scrambling at a career-high rate.
Looked good last week, I thought.
He moved around.
For what it's worth.
Moved around well. I know folks are concerned about Ibuka. Ibuka's got one of the lowest catchable target rates during this rough game stretch for him. And I know people credit that to this alleged rookie wall and all these things.
No.
Baker kind of has started spraying the ball a little bit, at least when it comes to targeting too. And when Ibuka is clear and far away the number one option, he's going to get attention paid to him where, this will be the 3rd game back for Chris Godwin. And, yeah, the Saints aren't necessarily a problem, but to get through and do what you said the Seattle Seahawks have been doing, to win a game in a convincing fashion where it's not – there's no come from behind necessary against the Saints. I think that would make all of us feel better.
Yeah, the Bucs are favored by 8.5 in this game. I mean, they shouldn't be favored over by 8.5 ever, I don't think, right now. But offensive line, they look good. They have one replacement still in there in Dan Feeney, who didn't play too well last week. But it wasn't just that Chris Godwin is back, because early in the season, I don't think he looked right. The first game back, we didn't really see much. Last week, I saw a little bit of pop. I saw a little bit of the old Chris Godwin with some yak. I thought Baker, for what it's worth, moved around well and probably had a better game overall than he did the week before when he first suffered that injury. And, yeah, the Saints don't do a lot that really confuses you. Shout out to our podcast colleague, though, Cam Jordan. 2 more sacks last week.
Yeah.
I was annoyed that I didn't mention that on the recap show. He's up to 6.5. I think he's starting to put up numbers where in the end there's going to be a good conversation about him going to Canton, and I think that's meaningful.
Yeah.
To anyone.
We get to we pass 125.
Okay.
Right?
That was the number, right?
So, yeah. We like nice, concise numbers in terms of evaluation for career awards, and that means something.
Wait, I did want to talk about Chuck for a second.
Yeah, let's have the title.
I hadn't watched him as closely until this, the previous week. Last week I did. He's a little better pocket presence and a little more playmaking than I expected. A little more excitement out of the Shuckster. Whereas when you watched him in college, I felt like when pressure was near him, he'd kind of panic, and he had so many injuries. It almost seemed like he was just trying to get to the NFL draft. I don't know. I'm just putting thoughts into his head. That's probably not fair. But he's been pretty good against pressure. At least he was last week. The numbers have been up and down. But last week he made a lot of plays, and he's doing enough so far where I think he's getting to where Spencer Rattler was, which is I think this guy's going to have a career. He's going to be an NFL quarterback. Now, is he a high-level backup? Is he a bridge quarterback? Is he better than that? Obviously, the Saints would hope he's better than that. but like it kind of feels like worst case scenario now. He's like a good backup quarterback, which is not bad like to have. And so you're building from there. He could make it difficult for them to decide what to do in the draft.
Yeah, to be fair to him, because that was, in looking back and in hindsight, it's probably unfair to say, oh, well, Shuck had all these clean pockets to throw from. Everybody would love to play in this offense. Well, he wasn't in those situations. So why am I dinging him for situations that he wasn't in? And now that he's in them, he's surviving those bullets in there.
Pretty good test this week. He's had a relatively soft schedule. You face all the blitzes. This is a new challenge. It's a small sample size, so I don't want to go too crazy. But so far, I was a doubter, and I would say I think he's been a little higher than expectations. So I'm watching you, Tyler Shuck.
Oh,
I'm enjoying you.
Gregg's got your eye on you, Tyler. So congratulations on that. That in itself is an accomplishment. What about an accomplishment at quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings for perhaps J.J. McCarthy? His Vikings are favored by 1.5 points, with the Washington Commanders coming in, still questioning the availability on their offensive side of the ball. Adam Amin and Drew Brees on the call. The Commanders gave the Broncos every single thing they had, including extra time. Are they? Should we be looking at that 1.5 a little bit sideways, Gregg?
In which way? That the Commanders should be favored?
I considering the way things went against the Denver Broncos, I'm starting to believe. Gregg.
There is a case to be made based on an extremely small sample size that Dan Quinn has helped out the defense in terms of the play calling. They've been certainly more competitive the 2 weeks that he called plays. The offense has been fine throughout. I want to see if Jaden Daniels is playing in this game. We don't know as of now. But, yeah, the Vikings are not a team that probably should be favored over anyone. Just about.
I do think, because the Brosmer experience, for better or worse, at least people have an answer. For as of right now, this idea that,
I'd like to see one more Brosmer game. I'm serious. It was a tough situation. Your first start against Seattle before saying we have an answer. But, yeah, I wasn't expecting him to be, like, way better than J.J. McCarthy or anything. But, if we're going to be fair about sample sizes, he only played one game.
Okay, I'm with Gregg. Let's have more of this snuff film that was the Max Prosper experience against the Seattle Seahawks, where, yeah, I think, I'm not going to say Dan Quinn has completely fixed the circumstances over there on that defensive side of the ball, but I would feel better for the opportunity for J.J. McCarthy, at the very least, to feed targets to Justin Jefferson in a way where last week, when the targets were there, it was an adventure. Even there was legitimately one rep where JJ felt like he was questioning whether or not the ball was actually going to get to him.
Yeah.
And folks are wondering about his effort because it was so scattershot where, for the sake of Vikings fans, Gregg,
yeah,
let's get Max Brosmer in a better situation. But J.J. McCarthy is...
Yeah, that's fair. And having a week off, maybe that calms his mind a little bit. Certainly the matchup shouldn't be as tough in general. I did want to get this quote right, and that's what I was searching for.
Okay.
And it was on Hard Knocks in the locker room. Have you seen this?
No.
After the game. And Dan Quinn says, "We may have lost, but we are no longer lost." Wow, that's pretty good. But we're not lost anymore. That was the quote again. This is a team that's been adrift all season. They're not lost anymore. They're going to be rallying to the home stretch, maybe. Jaden Daniels, by the way, not, taking any contact. It's practice anyways. You would expect him to wear a non-contact jersey. They'll determine his status on Friday. He is practicing. Just my gut, based on how they're talking, I think it's going to be another week. I do think he's going to play multiple games this season. I don't think it's going to be this week, but that's just my guess.
I have a huge question about this game before we go, Greg.
Okay.
Jeremy McNichols has the second best yards per carry average in the entire NFL right now. He's over 6.5 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they not give Jeremy McNichols more opportunities when he's running the ball?
He's not maybe as rugged a runner as Chris Rodriguez. Chris Rodriguez is good. I mean, they're all pretty good, I guess. He's not an every down guy. I don't know.
He's definitely not if you don't give him the ball. I don't know. I would like to see it, Cliff. I would like to see it. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
I want to see more Jeremy McNichols.
Okay. Let's keep it rolling.
Let's do it. Another running back who has huge numbers is Devon Achane. And his Miami Dolphins, who have a path, Greg, as you said famously a few weeks ago. The path is still there, although this becomes less likely. 2.5-point favorites against Tyrod Taylor and the Jets. The over-under 41.5. Spiro Ditas and Adam Archuleta. It has been Adonai Mitchell, Greg. You call that the explosiveness. Does that power the Jets for another win for AG against the Dolphins?
I kind of think it will.
Oh.
Who are you going to take? You're now in first place on Game Day View, which is our weekly show on NFL Network people should check out. And Patrick is trying to pull off the impossible and defeat the computer model of Cynthia Freeland. Right now, he's winning.
Eventually, on a show with three people, eventually I would have had one chance over the course of these past few seasons. And so we're here. I
think I'm going to take the Jets. They've been playing well lately.
They have been playing well. I am scared to death by the hot air balloon that Tua Tagovailoa threw to Jalen Waddle last week. Perhaps, the ball slipped out of his hands. I don't know. But that one piece of tape, I'm still picking the Fins here because I think the run game with Achane specifically allows them more explosive opportunity. But, the Taylor experience is back. I'm glad Tyrod is back playing. He's made the Jets better, and he's given hope, like long-term viability to Adonai Mitchell.
Right. A.D. Mitchell always looked like a talented player. If you're watching on YouTube, we love you. Like, subscribe, do it all. And you're seeing A.D. Mitchell get open down the field. He's probably going to be a guy that has his share of drops. And I don't know what the other issues were, but he, is becoming a pro. He's a young guy. I think that's going to go down as a big part of that trade. I don't think he's going to be a number one, but I think he's going to be a starting caliber. He's clearly the most talented receiver on this roster when Garrett Wilson is hurt, which has been the case for most of this season. And it does make it a dangerous game for my vision of the Dolphins coming back. The problem with that vision is everyone in the AFC keeps winning. The idea was, okay, they're going to be 6-7. They could have a game where they have a chance to pass the Steelers, was the vision a month ago. That all is going to happen, but passing the Steelers might be for 10th place in the AFC. So I don't think it really is going to make any difference, and I don't trust this Dolphins team in particular. I don't get the arguments that I've seen out there of I don't know, McDaniel is kind of making the case for why he should be back. Why? Because they're doing the same thing that they would have done anyways, but just in a different order? I hate that.
Well, Greg, famously,
yeah,
the end of the season is more important than the start of the season. And now the Dolphins are winning, so that logic would say that Mike Mack's doing great. He should be brought back because this is when it means more.
You know how everyone's been noting that the Patriots have one of the easiest schedules in NFL history? The Dolphins and the Jets schedules aren't that much harder. So if you get to 7 or 8 wins in year 4 of your program with one of the easiest schedules, and you don't even get your over-under win total. They were expected to be decent. They were an 8.5 before the season. I'm not giving you any credit that it happened at the end of the season. I do like, though, Chop Robinson, who had a total of 1 sack and quarterback hit combined going into last week, had 1 of each. Was very active throughout the rest of the game. And Devon Achane, I noticed, 1,400 yards from scrimmage right now, 240 touches. He is a bell cow type of guy, if you count the receptions. 10 touchdowns, and his ability to skip forward while he just skips on an NFL field while everyone else looks slow around him. All my doubts of Devon Achane have been proven stupid. And he is that dude.
And thank you for attaching the bell cow to a smaller.
Yeah.
Because the smaller guys don't get bell cow, but
if you get over 300 touches, you're a bell cow. I think they can win this game. The New York Jets, that is.
All right. A fun matchup. What about a fun matchup that we were previewing back in the draft when we thought Shedeur Sanders was going to go significantly higher? It is a matchup of 2 quarterbacks that really built their relationship during that draft process. It is Shedeur Sanders playing host to Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans. And the Browns are favored, Greg, by 4.5 points. Chris Myers and Mark Schlereth on the call. The thing that everybody should be watching, because the quarterbacks are going to get a lot of attention here.
They should.
Myles Garrett is getting close to this record, Greg. He may get significantly closer this weekend.
This is a huge week for him, I think, to go get it, because Cam Ward holds on to the ball. J.C. Latham has not played particularly well this year. In general, the Titans' offensive line, whether you want to go on the interior, there's an injury at center as well, and they move him inside sometimes. This is a time to go rack up some numbers, because what I don't want is going into the last week or two and he needs one more. It's hard. The other team isn't want to. You're not going to have Brett Favre laying down for you.
Not to say it.
This is, by the way, the all-time Chris Myers, Mark Schlereth game. Titans-Browns. Combined 4 wins. That's where it's at.
Oh, it's bad enough, Greg.
I'm taking shots. Did you see Deshaun Watson is practicing? They opened up his 21-day practice window. If in case you wanted to feel worse about this Brown season, I would be stunned if he played football this year in a regular season game. I would be very surprised if he was even on the active roster. I think what they're doing is letting him practice and kind of continue his development and reward him for what Kevin Stefanski said has been a great attitude and doing everything that they want. But he's just practicing just to practice. I would be beyond shocked if they let Deshaun Watson play football on the Browns.
Do you feel that Deshaun Watson should have been playing just purely football-wise these past 2 seasons?
Well, no.
Exactly. So I would not be shocked if the Cleveland Browns put Deshaun Watson.
We're in a different place
because they've been doing it for no reason, from my perspective. So why would I expect them to behave rationally here in 2025?
There's just no point. What is he going to do? Be the backup over Dylan Gabriel?
No, you're making sense to me.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me, but considering what we've seen from the franchise and the decision makers involved, I don't know. I would not be shocked.
I also would be shocked if Kevin Stefanski is back next year. So I don't know if the decision makers that are involved will be making these decisions. To me, the ownership is most important out of this entire group. And the Titans should count their blessings, by the way, that they are not chasing what that poor Browns team did last decade. You remember the one game that the Titans won?
Yeah.
It's the flukiest game in the history of the NFL. I have never seen a flukier ending to an NFL game than that Titans game. And they have not been that competitive. It's not like, oh, well, yeah, they almost won this game or almost won that game. They are, there is this idea the Raiders are worse. I've kind of thrown that out there. But, they're one of the worst teams ever. The one game that they won was the luckiest game ever. And if you look at DVOA overall efficiency, there's a pretty big gap between them and 31 on the list. 4.5 might not be enough. I like the Browns to cover this.
I gotta assemble a list of the luckiest games ever, so that we can defeat this theory from Greg.
It was a crazy.
It was
a crazy performance. You know what? I will say, Cam Ward should bounce back, because that was maybe his worst game of the season last week. It was coming off of one of his best games of the season. It happens, and when you got Mike McCoy on the sideline, just. The last guy I want as an interim head coach.
Spicy today, Greg.
Just refuses to go for there's nothing there. There's nothing. That's not what you want out of your interim head coach. He is a fill-in. And I would never call Barnwell that. But this is a week where we've got different personnel in the mix. And so we decided to take advantage of a friend, do a little home and home. So we're going to say goodbye to Patrick right now. We thank Steve Wyche for his excellent contributions. And I want you to check out the show with Bill Barnwell, hitting all the late games, great primetime games. We will see you then. Welcome to NFL Daily, where we love a good day-night doubleheader. I'm Gregg Rosenthal here in the Chris Wesseling podcast studio, talking to my friend for the second time today. Yes, you read him at ESPN, you listen to his podcast, Bill Barnwell Show, and he's been the defining NFL writer of his generation. I'll say it, I did his podcast earlier in the day. Everyone check that out, and you're here to join me, Bill, to talk a really good 5-pack of games. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Greg. What an intro. I think of myself as the defining writer NFL writer, at least of my own household.
No.
So expanding it out to the generation.
I'm trying to think who else it would be. This is a podcast for another day. Like Greg Bishop is a sneaky one in the mix. I don't Connor Orr is great. But I'm saying
Orr's excellent.
Yeah,
I would say Gregg Rosenthal's pretty darn good writer.
I'm not really writing anymore, but we're not going to talk about that. We are going to talk about double headers. So the Bears and the Packers, they're playing twice over the next 18 days, or at least after Sunday. They're going to have a Thursday night game to cap this like twofer. And we're going to talk also later about the Monday night game, the Houston, Kansas City, the Sunday night game. It's going to be great. But I think we have to start with this Packers game. Packers are favored by 6.5. It's the Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady game in the afternoon. And the Bears continue to ascend in terms of the quality of the opponent. Yes, I'm putting the Packers over the Eagles at this point, and ascend in terms of the importance of the game. What concerns you? Because that's a pretty big number the Packers are favored by in a game where, the Bears are the number 1 seed in the NFC. If the Bears, let's say, don't even cover that number, where it's more than a touchdown in this game, what do you think would go wrong for the Bears for them to lose by 2 scores, let's say?
Their defense would stink. And unfortunately, Greg, we talked about this as we were taping my show earlier. The Bears defense might stink. It might actually be a bad defense. So stat I would refer to here is points allowed per drive on drives that do not end in fumble recoveries or interceptions. So basically, what do you do when you don't force a turnover? The Bears are 29th in the NFL in points allowed per drive by that metric. So basically, their defense is turnover or bust. And thankfully, they have the highest turnover rate in football, second highest rate of any team over the last 10 seasons. So they force a lot of turnovers, which is very good. The problem is they are playing a Packers team which has the fewest giveaways of any offense in football this year. Just 7 turnovers this entire season for the Packers offense. Now, admittedly, when they have turned the ball over, it has been at disastrous times, probably cost them a game against the Browns earlier this season. Jordan Love, he's known for putting the ball in danger in moments where you don't typically want the ball to be in danger, but this Packers team protects the football really well. And to me, that is kind of the only way the Bears have played defense well this season. Now, they are getting back Jalen Johnson, who came back last week. Kyler Gordon is back. You might be able to make the case that they are a more complete defense, perhaps, than they were earlier this season. But I just don't think that's a great matchup for what the Bears want to do on the defensive side of the football.
No, I agree. And I want to see if the Packers can kind of continue the Christian Watson-led evolution of this passing attack. And I do think their size, like Dontayvion Wicks, and at some point, obviously, Jaden Reed isn't adding size to the mix, but he'll add a certain sort of dynamism. But can this offensive passing attack get reliable? Because the numbers would tell you Jordan Love has been reliable this year, but the eye test and just the quarters at a time, halves at a time where this offense just goes away is not baked into those numbers. And so I do want to see that. The thing I'd be most worried about, and you got to it, was the pass rush for the Bears is probably the biggest weakness, I think, on their entire 53-man roster. And Jordan Love, while protected this year, has easily the best numbers in the NFL at any quarterback. Like, everyone thinks of Jared Goff as the ultimate pressure, non-pressure quarterback split. Right now, even though you have the image of Jordan Love making some good plays, like while backing up, he actually has the biggest splits of anyone under pressure or not. And I don't think the Bears are going to apply a lot of pressure in this game.
I don't think so either. I mean, the one thing I would say maybe is that this would have been such a good matchup for Tucker Kraft against a Bears team that's going to be missing at least one starting linebacker in Tremaine Edmonds, if not 2. TJ Edwards has come back to practice, which would be a major help for the Bears. But you do want to throw on their linebackers, want to throw over the middle of the field on them. And we'll see if Luke Musgrave can be that guy. Josh Jacobs, of course, can catch the football, although he's had kind of a rough season for the Packers. But, you flip it, Greg, and you mentioned that the weakest spot on the Bears lineup is their pass rush. The only other position that comes to mind for me is left tackle, where the Bears are now on their 3rd left tackle of the season. And the Packers have a pretty good pass rusher who might be able to cause Caleb Williams some trouble in this game.
I thought you were going to go the biggest weakness is like their passing game, which is more general, or get real spicy and say their quarterback or something, because we hadn't hit on NFL Daily the comment by Ben Johnson that they're winning in spite of their passing game, which the next day, because he knew that got a lot of run in Chicago and nationally, he pointed out how happy he is with Caleb Williams, that it wasn't about Caleb Williams, and that like he's making good decisions, which I think for the most part is true. The decision making has been good. He is last in the league, Caleb Williams, in completion percentage over expected. That matches the eye test, that the ball just isn't going where he wants it to go enough. What is your level of concern against this Packers defense throwing the ball? Because we'll get to the run game. I think the Bears will be able to run the ball in this game, but you're going to need Caleb Williams to make some play. Do you agree with Ben Johnson's assessment?
Yes and no. I'm probably a little more pessimistic maybe than Ben Johnson is about. I do think he's making the right decision a fair amount, but I think he's making the safer decision a fair amount of the time, especially early in the year. Even when they were on Monday Night Football, you saw Trey Aikman pointing out, hey, like this is the time to take a shot. Like you're getting, I'm not going to lean on this over and over again, but you're getting quarters, you have a deep post, that's where the ball should be going. And, there's nothing wrong with taking those checkdowns or taking the underneath throws necessarily. Obviously, a short completion is better than a sack, but you're only going to get so many chances per game for those explosives. And the reality is, unfortunately, like you said, Caleb Williams is missing enough of his throws that they're going to need those explosives, not only in the run game, but also in the pass game to sort of make hay against the Packers. He has a 22.1% off-target rate. That's the tie with Michael Penix, basically for the worst in football. But when he gets pressured, now everyone is going to put a higher off-target rate up when they get pressured. His off-target rate when he's pressured is 37.8%. The only player in the NFL who has a worse off-target rate when he's under pressure is Aaron Rodgers, who is actively trying to avoid getting hit at all costs. So my concern is really more game flow than Caleb Williams' talent. Like, if there's a scenario where the Bears get up 14-0 in this game early, and the Packers are one-dimensional, and the Bears can run the football, and Caleb's throwing off a play action, he's throwing off boots, he's not throwing in 3rd and long while he's trailing the entire game, that's going to be fine. I think they will have opportunities to throw the football. Caleb is a talented player. He's made some really impressive throws this year, and he's going to be in control. But if the Bears do get behind early, they have to abandon or at least sort of not rely as heavily on the run as they normally would. Caleb's dropping back on 2nd down, on 3rd down. They're in 2nd and long, 3rd and long a ton. That is the sort of situation where I feel like the pass rush can ruin the game for the Bears, especially with Micah Parsons against their tackles.
It sounds like we're both a little skeptical that the Bears can pull this off. And I'm a fan of Bill. He does it all. In that little jag right there, you referred to a big internet, storm over someone doubting the great Mina Kimes, our friend, about
stupid. Why would you ever do
about
that?
how you it is stupid attacking quarters coverage with deep ball. You pivoted naturally
Greg,
earlier to the left tackle position. Yes.
Yeah. You could just put coach in your Twitter handle.
There you go.
No one checks it. No one's like, no one verifies whether you're a coach or not.
It's a great point. And you also, got a nice dig at Aaron Rodgers, which lets me do a stat that I forgot to do on the first part of the show, which that he has completed exactly one pass under pressure in the last 3 games combined, which is just outrageous. All right, we have to move on from this game, but I cannot wait to watch it. Jordan Rodriguez, we let a different person pick which game is the number 1 draft pick of what game they're going to watch and, quote unquote, cover on our show every week. And she had the number 1 pick this week. I think she made the right choice with the Packers and the Bears. That would have been my pick as well. But I am very excited to attend at SoFi Stadium, my first game this season there, at least since the barn burner Chargers-Saints preseason game. Chargers-Eagles. The Eagles are favored by 3. Of course, it's your colleagues. I know you're tight with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Maybe that line is baking in Justin Herbert's wrist injury. What, you don't hang with Joe? Does Joe Buck and Troy Aikman know who you are, do you think? That's
good answer to that. If I say yes, I'm bragging, and if I say no, I'm being honest, and it's a little sad. So let's just leave it to a mystery.
I think humble no is better. Unfortunately, it's almost a shot at them because if they really know ball, they would know. I bet Troy Aikman does. I don't know about Joe Buck. That's actually my take.
I don't think either of them know.
No, I think Troy does. I think Troy does. I think that line is baking in Herbert playing or probably playing. So
yeah,
he's he's day to day. The reports from Dan Graziano at ESPN is like, they're gonna take it, and he's very hopeful. He thinks he can do it. I just watched him play an entire game with a broken left hand, and he held the hand away from him. Watching that on replay was incredible because he was literally holding it up while he was getting sacked on the other side of his body. So if he can do that, he's playing in this freaking game. He's a badass. And here's one thing I didn't get to on your show, Bill, because we didn't talk Chargers. For all the talk over the years about Herbert, they're doing him dirty. They don't give him enough weapons. They're not supporting him. I like where this defense is at. Obviously, a good defense. It's healthier. Helps out a quarterback. We got the offensive line problems. We know. But they brought Jamari Sawyer at left tackle last week. Might have stabilized things a little bit. You're giving up some run blocking to get the pass blocking. Might have stabilized things a little bit. Trey Pipkins is back. And this group of weapons is great. Like they have 4 guys over 500 yards right now receiving, including Aronde Gadsden, who's a Rookie of the Year candidate, and Kimani Vidal is looking great in the backfield. And we might get Amari and Hampton. Like he's got a lot to work with. It's Herbert's year. I think he can do this. I think he can get this win.
He's got one hand, though. You mentioned all the other stuff, but he has one hand. He has a hand in a Nintendo Power Glove, and he has one hand to use. Now, you can win with one hand. We saw him play well last week with one, or play well enough with one hand. I guess the place I would start with this, Greg, is knowing your quarterback is compromised, maybe, or at least limited at the very least. And given that we just saw the Eagles get run over by the Chicago Bears last week, do you think the Chargers, whether it's Kimani Vidal or, like you said, perhaps a returning Omarion Hampton, do you think they try to lean super heavy into the run and just try to win the Greg Roman way and just go super run first, the way he might have a few years ago in San Francisco or in Baltimore? Or, and I guess the other question is, do you think they can do that if that's their game plan and philosophy heading into the game?
I think they will try, yes. I have my doubts whether they can. I think Vidal's played better than I ever would have expected. I think he's going to have a good career. And if you add Hampton to the mix, that's a great group. But even last week against the Raiders, to me, it was more about him breaking tackles than it was about the blocking. The Eagles, if you're going to beat them defensively, and I'm not selling all my Eagles defensive stock because of that one game or even the last 2 games. I do think it's probably better done on the ground. I do have my doubts of this Chargers offensive line protecting for 4 quarters against this Eagles pass rush, even if I think they're upgraded maybe from where they were 3 weeks ago, where it was really just destitute.
Yeah, I mean, Sawyer played left tackle in the past. I thought he did a reasonable job. I was sort of surprised they did not go back to that earlier. I mean, they were playing Trevor Penny at left tackle before they gave Sawyer a shot, which never really made sense to me. I do agree that it's going to be tougher for them to succeed on the run. The Bears game was a lot of zone runs against the Eagles. They are the second best team in football by EPA per play on zone runs. The Chargers are 16th in EPA per play on those zone runs. And I would flip it and think about what Vic Fangio does really well, and it's disguised his coverages. I mean, post-snap, he wants to spin his safeties. He wants to, even post-snap, he wants to mask what his safeties, what his coverage defenders are actually doing. He wants to give the quarterback as little info as possible. And that's been a difference maker for Justin Herbert and this Chargers offense. He's 5th in the NFL in total QBR, our stat over at ESPN. When he faces disguised coverages this year, he's 21st. When he does not face disguised coverages, 5th, 21st when the coverages are disguised. And so he'll put the ball in danger, put the ball in a tight window. I do think I'm a little concerned about that, but I know the Chargers are a work in progress on the offensive line, but this Eagles defense, the key pieces are still there, but they're still figuring out what their best personnel is. I mean, Jahad Campbell, who was a defensive rookie of the year candidate earlier this year, basically been benched for Nakobe Dean. He hasn't played at all. He didn't play a defensive snap at all last week, even when they were getting run over on the ground. They're integrating Jalen Phillips. Michael Carter was in the lineup as a slot cornerback and then kind of fell out of favor. We saw more Adoree Jackson from here and there. It just sort of feels like, even though we're 2/3 of the way into the year, the Eagles are still trying to find what their best personnel groupings are, what they should be doing against, bigger packages, what they should be doing in obvious passing spots. And it feels like there's always at least one or two spots in the lineup teams can attack. And so for the Chargers, I just think it's, can they find Adoree Jackson all that often? Can they find Kobe Dean in coverage all that often? Can they find those spots that they can take advantage of before they end up trailing in this game?
Yeah, Reed Blankenship is another one that Ali Connolly on our recap show of the Black Friday game pointed out everyone should check out. By the way, Ali and I are back. The Saturday Sicko show is coming back for its second episode on Saturday.
Transatlantic podcast.
It is quite exciting. They're by the way, a ball possession offense, and I do want to flip and talk about the other side. But it is interesting when you think about the Bears and what they did. Maybe they can do what the Bears did, but in a different way. The Chargers are second in the NFL. I was surprised to see this in plays per drive. So a lot of that is Justin Herbert making magic on third down, frankly. But yeah, by the way, if he goes and has an awesome game, and I'm leaving this open for a lot of quarterbacks out there, Dak is in that mix. If he has an awesome game on Monday night, you'll start hearing, hey, why not Justin Herbert for MVP? I don't think it's that crazy in a year where there's not totally obvious guys. Okay. On the other side, Philadelphia leads the league in 3 and outs. And this is where, you can see the path for the Chargers winning because you don't think that they'll need as many points. Their defense is healthier right now than it's been all season, certainly at edge, but they also have Elijah Molden. Some key guys up front, T.R. Tart and Deshaun Hand, who have had injuries. They're back. One of their best cornerbacks, Tarheeb, still is back. So they're just healthier. And one thing I saw last week against the Raiders, they were a lot more, I know it was the Raiders, but they were more creative, doing kind of the Mike McDonald type of stuff and blitzing, just getting a little more creative, which I think could work against this Eagles offense.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles are a different offense without Lane Johnson. We've known that for a decade, more than a decade at this point. They are a different team when Lane Johnson is not on the field. He is not going to play in this game. And this is not an offense that is the most, how can I put this nicely?
Good?
Extensive.
No, okay.
Good is maybe a nice way to put it as well, or a realistic way to put it. It's sloppy. It's inconsistent. It's exploitable. And I mean, the Eagles are a team that win by dominating with their personnel. They are not a team that's winning with their scheme. And so that could mean limited pass protection groupings. That could mean things you can exploit with your blitzes, with your sim pressures, to your point. There's a lot of ways I think you beat the Eagles that are beyond just simply our guys are better than your guys, because the Eagles have incredible personnel, especially when everyone is healthy, which is obviously not the case right now. But I think for the Chargers, the thing you're hoping to have this be is sort of the opposite of what, sort of similar to what you said about the Chargers on the ball. Can you force the Eagles to drive down the field with 6 or 7 first downs? Can you take away the explosives, which they have no explosives in the run game right now? They have plenty of explosives in the passing game. Devontae Smith has had some big games. AJ Brown has had some big catches even over the past couple weeks. If you can take stuff away over the top and just force Jalen Hurts, force Saquon Barkley, force the offensive line, force the receivers to not drop passes, to not commit penalties, to not allow sacks, not allow pressures, just to be a grinded out offense, they're going to make mistakes. They just have not been consistent enough to pull that off. And I trust that Jesse Minter and the Chargers have that kind of big picture ability and vision. I do think they can execute that and do that throughout 60 minutes of a football game.
They've been really versatile this year. They've also been very streaky. They started the year as one of the best defense in the league. They had about a month where they were one of the worst defense in the league. Now they're trending back towards being one of the best. But one thing I like that you mentioned and that they can do is, I think, change it up week to week and really build a game plan. Right now, I think the veterans on this team, they've been in this system for a while. And like I said, they're healthier. If it's not obvious enough, I like the Chargers.
Can I ask you a question? Greg?
Yes, please.
Very quickly. So if you poll Eagles fans, I would say about 90% of them think that this is the 2023 collapse happening again.
Yeah.
How confident are you that this is the 2023 collapse happening again to the Eagles?
Not confident. I don't think it's going to be that bad. That was
Sounds like you think
crazy.
it's going to be a little bad, though.
I do. I think they'll find a way to like beat the Raiders and the Commanders a couple times. Maybe they lose one Commanders game. And like if they lose a playoff game, one and done, they're competitive. That was one of the worst teams in the NFL by the end of the season. It was so, but I can't remember another situation like that where a team turned into one of the worst teams in the NFL for the last month of the season. And like everyone just assumed they were going to get blown out in the playoffs, and then they did. And it was a team that had a Super Bowl pedigree. I don't think they're going to be like that. Like I think they'll probably lose in more heartbreaking fashion in these games if they're going to lose.
Yeah, I mean, I just last week they missed an extra point that would have tied the game. They're in position in the red zone to score. Jalen Hurts fumbles in the tush push. The week before, they go up 21-0 on the Cowboys. They're in position to get in the red zone and score again, and a penalty gets Devontae's fifth catch called back, and then they fumble on the next play. Like, there's been a fair amount of bad luck. And the defense is still playing well enough. I know they didn't play great against the run last week, but they have been good enough that I'm not anticipating a Matt Patricia-led collapse here down the stretch. So they might be not as good maybe as they looked earlier this year, but I don't think they're going to have a collapse the way they did in 2020.
And keep an eye on Nick Sirianni. I wouldn't be surprised if he is calling the plays this week. I know they're not going to announce it or anything, but whether he's going to have a bigger hand. He's returning to the place where he cut his teeth. You know, they have moved up up the highway from San Diego to here. He didn't coach in SoFi
I
Stadium.
hope he doesn't go to the wrong stadium.
Yes, but he was a Charger for a long time. All right, let's talk Sunday Night Football. Texans in Kansas City. Chiefs are favored by 3.5. It's the NBC A team. 3 go Collinsworth. No more.
I do know Chris Collinsworth.
Okay, you do personally.
We got that checked out.
Okay,
I've had a conversation or two with him. I did a panel with him at a conference once.
I have never had a conversation with him, but he once pre-taped different segments for a fantasy show. It was called The Fantasy Fix with me and Tiffany Simons on NBCSports.com about 18 years ago, where he pre-taped the segment, kind of like Michael Jordan is doing with Mike Tirico, where he did it all in one day. And he had to just sit there for 20 straight segments and ask us a question. Hey, Greg and Tiffany, who do you think is going to... Okay, that was a bad Chris Collinsworth, but I tried.
That was not bad. That was good. Oh, man, that was so much better than I could have done.
Who do you think should start for the Packers? Sam Congato or Amon Green? Or it's like something like that. I just love when that these two teams are playing each other right now is awesome. Because the Chiefs are just holding on for dear life, and the Texans are reborn. No. And yet, whoever loses this game is in a tough spot, including the Texans. So what fascinates you most from this game?
Oh, Greg. Fascinating me, terrifying me, scaring me. The Chiefs' offensive line versus Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. So, according to the most recent reports, as we tape this on Wednesday afternoon here on the East Coast, Josh Simmons has a dislocated wrist. Probably not going to play.
I think he's going to IR. The word is he's going to IR is the expectation. Yep.
Typically, you don't play with a dislocated wrist. I feel confident on that one. Trey Smith, Juwan Taylor, both questionable. It sounds like maybe the wrong side of questionable for this game. Greg, that means Jalen Moore, according to Chiefs beat reporters, at right tackle, Mike Caliendo at right guard, and yes, after spending the entire offseason trying to avoid this happening, the Chiefs are expecting the Wanya Morris experience to happen again at left tackle against the scariest 1-2 punch of edge rushers in all of football in Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. It's an absolute nightmare for the Kansas City Chiefs to have this happen against this particular opponent.
That's so well said and true. And I'm so spooked by the Chiefs that this all, when you say these things, it all just seems to be setting up. Well, of course, then Andy Reid's going to come up with this great game plan, and we're going to be talking Sunday night about how did they overcome all of this. But you know how many times I've thought that this season, and then but it hasn't happened. Like how many times I've thought, well, yeah, this is the moment where, you know, when it's not looking great, actually they're going to do this, and they don't. And I'll ask you this. Like, do you think Andy Reid's missing something here? Does he need a little inspiration? It's almost like they've just run out of ideas or something. Maybe having so many limitations this week, they'll somehow come up with something crazy like the Andy Reid of old. I feel like we haven't been seeing that, even though we've been seeing prime Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if we've been seeing prime Andy Reid.
Greg, I'll tell you what. Andy Reid can just watch this show. I will tell Andy Reid what he needs to do to win this game. He doesn't need Matt Nagy. He doesn't need a big staff. I'll keep it very simple for Andy Reid and the Chiefs. Run the damn ball. And run it from under center. And don't do your shotgun runs. Don't do your RPOs. Get underneath center and run the damn ball. The Chiefs are the second best offense in football by EPA per play on under center designed rushes. And the Texans, Greg, are 26th in EPA per play on under center design rushes. I don't think there's anything they can do to stop those edge rushers. We saw in the Super Bowl last year, right? Like they tried to chip with Kelsey. They tried to get it, tried to help out on their best player and Jalen Carter and then have one-on-ones elsewhere. It didn't work. Kelsey's not a good chipper. They had fewer guys going out into routes. There just wasn't anybody getting open. And the Chiefs were still losing enough of their one-on-ones to the Eagles that Mahomes was still getting sacked, even though at some points they were max protecting or keeping 7 in protection. I don't think you want to lean heavy into the pass in this game. I think you want to try to run the football. You want to try to give your offensive lineman as much help as possible. You want to avoid 3rd and long as much as possible. And I don't know if that's going to work because this is a inferior version of the Chiefs' offensive line than the one they've had at their best earlier this year. But especially if you can get Trey Smith in the lineup, I think you have to give it a shot. Just because to me, that is the most plausible way you can have a sustainable and successful offense against this Texans team.
Barnwell becoming a run the damn ball guy in his dotage. Who would have thunk it? Forget Rams Panthers. That's the biggest upset of the year. I think Pacheco looked better last week than he did early in the season. He hasn't looked great for a couple seasons. I thought
couple years.
Just to my eye, he had a little more juice last week in limited snaps. Yeah. They still were using Kareem Hunt, so he would be the guy if you can get kind of the old version of Pacheco back.
Yeah.
On the flip side, like can Houston's offense continue to kind of catch a groove of normality?
Oh yeah.
Now they're mixing in these dumb plays where they mess up in short yardage or they have illegal formations or they're handing it off to the tight end. There's still some real Texan-y stuff in there. But whether it was Davis Mills or CJ Stroud last week, especially in the second half, they have been pretty cohesive as just like a normal looking offense, especially passing the ball. And they're getting more out of Xavier Hutchinson and Jaden Higgins and Dalton Schultz, which I think is really important to have kind of an array of options for CJ Stroud to go to. We know Nico Collins is a badass. He'll probably be matched up on Trent McDuffie for a lot of this game. It's a pretty ordinary defense for the Chiefs. And so I do kind of feel like the Texans are coming into their own as just a normal offense. Do you think they can keep that going?
I like when you say mix in dumb plays. Like there's a section of the play sheet that just has dumb plays, do not call. And Nick Caley cannot resist the urge to call that play in the wrong spot.
Well, it's like poorly executed plays. Just like in that Colts game, they could have won by a lot more if they could just pick up a yard in 3rd or 4th and 1. So it's not even necessarily a play call, but they're still not great, is my point. But the rest of they are moving the ball a little bit.
They are moving the ball, and so they've been way more efficient on a play-by-play basis. And there's a stat called success rate, which measures how often you stay on schedule on the offensive side of the ball. They are 3rd in success rate on offense over the last month of the year, even though Davis Mills was playing quarterback for 3 of those 4 games. And the way they're doing it to me is by getting another offensive lineman on the field. They have leaned heavily into the 6 offensive lineman sets, which, number one, their linemen aren't very good. So getting an extra one on the field helps. Just creating a further path for edge rushers to get to the quarterback. It kind of simplifies some of your pass pro because, if you're going to full slide, if you're going to try to get one-on-ones, it's a little easier to have an extra lineman on the field. So you can handle, some bigger fronts better. They've been running the ball more efficiently. They have had a 55% success rate with 6 offensive lineman sets over the course of the year. Second best rate in football. And for the Chiefs, I think that's a really big problem because, number one, they want to live in nickel anyway. Like they'll play base defense if they have to, but they want to live with 5-6 defensive backs on the field. A lot of the Steve Spagnuolo exotic stuff is going to come out of nickel and dime packages. And so by getting into 6-0 line sets, you're basically daring them to match with their base defense, and then you're limiting a lot of what Spags can do with kind of his exotic pressures. And then I think the biggest thing is if you can avoid the 3rd and longs. That was, I think, the biggest problem for the Texans last year. They had 6.2 snaps per game on 3rd and 8+. And
wow,
with their offensive line, that was a nightmare. I mean, all those 3rd and longs were disaster. They had 15 of them in the 2 games against the Chiefs last year and only converted 4 of them. And so this year, it's down to 5 per game over the last 4. It's still not ideal. To your point, still some sloppiness. Run game has not been great. It's been maybe a tiny bit better. But if you can avoid those 3rd and longs, you're getting away from the Spags downs where he can dial up his best stuff. You're getting away from the places where you're going to be blitzable, where your tackles are going to be one-on-one. If you can avoid those spots, this offense is going to be fine. And by staying on schedule and having a high success rate, you are avoiding those 3rd and longs. And so that's going to make this a very tough matchup for the Chiefs if the Texans can pass the ball well on early downs, even if it's not a big play, even if it's just a 3, 4, 5-yard gain, avoiding the negatives, avoiding the penalties, avoiding the sacks. That's how this offense moves forward.
Yeah, this is. I never count out Steve Spagnuolo to have the right game plan, but it's just an ordinary defense. They don't have enough.
Can I give you one more stat, Greg?
Please.
Chiefs defense this year when they blitz, 32nd in the NFL in pressure rate.
Oof.
That is the tough part for me with this Chiefs defense, is that their identity is the perfect blitz at the right time. And I don't think Steve Spagnuolo has forgotten how to blitz. It's just been way less successful when they have blitzed. And any defense, if you blitz and you don't get home, you're in a terrible problem. And so if the Chiefs are not going to get home with their blitzes in this game, and they have had a lot of trouble getting home with their blitzes this year, I would expect Jaden Higgins, Xavier Hutchinson, Nico Collins, even Dalton Schultz to have a lot of favorable matchups downfield and CJ Stroud to find those receivers.
And just judging on eye test, like the last month, the Houston offensive line, for all the grief that they've taken, been like, it's been pretty normal. I would say it's been like a little below average. Ben Baldwin does this. It's very hard to get metrics on offensive line. Yeah, where they have he combines 3 different offensive line metrics from Sports Info Solutions and PFF and ESPN, and they were like 20th. And I was like, that's great. That's normal. All right, that's going to be an awesome game. I think I'm taking the Texans. Let's take a quick break, and we're going to be back to wrap up the Week 14 slate. Back on NFL Daily as we broke from the Bill Barnwell show earlier today. He said he had to go to a coffee shop to do some prep. He's a pro, and I can see that prep in this show. This is the part of the show that's got to test you a little more. Yeah. Broncos heavily favored at Vegas. I feel like we've covered the Raiders too much lately on this show. It's just been so bad. The Broncos are obviously the more interesting side. Could this be a rare... Okay, bear with me here. A revenge game for Bo Nix and the Broncos just against how bad they looked against the Raiders last time. Everyone was making fun of them for how terrible they looked, putting up like 200 yards of offense against the Raiders. So it's a revenge game against expectations, and it's in the perfect, conditions of Allegiant Stadium.
Greg, I did go to that coffee shop and I rewatched the Broncos-Raiders game.
Stop.
And weirdly, everyone left.
Yeah.
Everyone cleared out of the coffee shop because the game was so awful. I think Patrick Graham had a really good game plan against Bo Nix in that first game. Contained him in the pocket, didn't let him rush. He didn't have a single scramble. I think his 5 attempts, it was kneel downs and sneaks in that game. It was taken away the first read. Bo Nix was 9 of 20 for 113 yards and 2 picks when he held the ball for over 2.5 seconds. It was a lot of basically daring Bo Nix to be a quarterback. Go through your progressions, work out of the pocket. That's not what Sean Payton wants Bo Nix to do. It's not what Bo Nix wants Bo Nix to do. But the Raiders showed that game plan. And so you would figure, if you're going to talk about a guy who's good at adjusting, a guy who's good at coming up with stuff to counter what you want to do on defense, with a week to watch that game and to look back, I would imagine Sean Payton will be in pretty good shape in terms of what they're game planning for the Raiders in this matchup. So I do think it's a prove-it game for Bo Nix, and I do think that the Broncos will be better on offense, although I'm a little concerned about the run game without J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, they haven't looked as good. The Raiders' defensive numbers were pretty good coming out of that game. For instance, like over the course of the season, they were slightly better than average considering their talent level. It was a good coaching job by Pete Carroll and Patrick Graham on that side of the ball. Since then, it hasn't looked good. There's just not much push. I think Sean Payton in much better conditions, and the conditions were terrible that night. It was freezing. Like, it's just gonna find too much offense for the Raiders to keep up. Geno looks a little shell-shocked out there, and watching him against this Broncos team doesn't seem fair. The Broncos, like Myles Garrett, are going after an NFL record. They have a real chance here to get the NFL team sack record. And you know who's helping out every week when they face another defense and helping their sack numbers? It's Geno Smith and the Raiders. It's just like a walking 7 sacks to start the game.
Yeah.
It's tough to watch. Like, what do you like when you see this Broncos defense at their best?
I mean, you didn't even mention that they didn't have Pat Surtain, I believe,
good point.
in that first game between these two teams. So now you're adding the reigning defensive player of the year back to a game where it felt like the Raiders could have played for 40 quarters and maybe not gotten to 21 points, which is probably what they needed to win that game. I mean, you're hoping maybe the Chip Kelly firing changes some things. I know that there's been reports this week that they were just running the Chip Kelly offense all along, or they were running the Pete Carroll offense all along. But I mean, they could not, in that game, reliably get to Brock Bowers. The only big catch Brock Bowers had was a play where Talanoa Hufanga tried to jump an underneath route, basically just went off his instincts. And usually those are good. Sometimes they aren't. And this was a play where they weren't. Brock Bowers got open for a big gain, but he otherwise was completely locked down. They did just not have the ability to get the ball to their really, not only their best receiver, but really their only receiver of any note right now. They weren't able to run the football. Ashton Jonte did not have a good game. And I don't put that on Ashton Jonte. I put that on the offensive line and the fact that the Broncos have one of the best defensive lines in football. But, you know, with the Raiders, it was like, okay, you don't have the talent, but you schemed up a good game. With the Broncos, the scheme is good and they have incredible talent and they're getting back their best defensive player. So it's just hard for me to imagine this game being significantly different for the Raiders offense. I would expect a lot of 3rd and long, a lot of sacks. I would expect Nick Bonito to, try to win the best mortal defensive player award behind Myles Garrett. But I just don't see a way for the Raiders to dramatically change the way they approach offense in this game.
And I was going to say the Broncos, they've skated by the last 3 weeks, winning, actually 4 weeks, winning 4 games by a combined 10 points. They have had a couple blowouts this season. They had the Bengals game that was not close. They took care of the Cowboys pretty easily. I think this is going to be another one. And yeah, like I said, everyone check out Bill's show where we decided whether the Broncos were lucky or good. They were a good discussion. Let's wrap with the Rams, who are both good, and I don't even think they're lucky. They actually maybe should be better than 9-3. If you think about about the way their season started, that Eagles game, certainly the Panthers game last week was a certain sort of, losing the turnover battle and not being able to get the ball back. I do think in this matchup against the Cardinals, the Rams are favored by 7.5. It's Kenny Albert and Jonathan Vilma on the call. That there are some things that the Cardinals can do to bother him. And like the number one thing I'm probably watching from the Rams side is, like, can the pass rush be a little more consistent? Teams have done a good job passing quickly to kind of mitigate the Rams pass rush. And, they struggled to get off the field last week. I mean, that's, of course, that's the recipe to do it, but it's a little surprising. I know they don't blitz much, but they're not in the top 10 of pressure rate this season, considering the talent that they have. I kind of want to see their pass rush come fully alive down the stretch, and this would be an opportunity to do so against a team in Jacoby Brissett who holds the ball quite a long time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the success the Panthers had last week was throwing under 2.5 seconds. A lot of quick game, a lot of just trying to find soft spots and zones. 9 of 11, Bryce Young for 122 and 2 touchdowns within 2.5 seconds. And the Rams are only 15th in the NFL in QBR on throws under 2.5 seconds or less. That's usually the kind of like the common delineator for quick game versus a more traditional passing attack. And so in an ideal world, you would have the ability to make those throws. If you're Jacoby Brissett, that's just not typically how this offense works. They want to be more of a heavy play action team, which is going to be holding the ball, trying to hit more shots downfield. Going to be tougher if Marvin Harrison doesn't play in this game. He's still uncertain. The Rams have been very good against tight ends this year. I think they're second in the NFL in QBR on targets to tight ends. And so not just as simple as getting the ball to Trey McBride. I love a little bit of Greg Dortch. I always wish they'd get a little more Greg Dortch involved in the offense. But Greg, the big thing that I think really underpinned the Panthers offense last week was running the football. And the Cardinals offense is 30th in the NFL this year in EPA per play on designed runs. That's been the biggest disappointment for this team this season. Full stop. It's just they have been a very fun, very aggressive rushing attack over the past couple of years, whether it was losing their offensive coordinator, losing James Conner, losing Trey Benson, not having the ability to go to 3 tight end sets with Tip Ryman hurt. All those things probably contributed a little bit, but they just have not been a good designed run team this year. And so that was hurting with Kyler Murray. They were getting stuck in a lot of 3rd and longs. They've been a little better because Jacoby Brissett, I think, is better in those drop back passing spots than Kyler is. But against the Rams, that might be the solution. It's like, if your play action game's taken out of the game because you're trailing and because you're not running the ball effectively and you're stuck in 3rd and long, that might be what unlocks a really good game from this Rams pass rush.
Yeah, I think it's a tough matchup because of what you just said. Trey Benson, by the way, not at practice. Marvin Harrison, not at practice. Harrison has a heel injury. I don't think he's expected to play. Benson, it's especially concerning because he came off the activation window and now he's not practicing. For what it's worth, and I don't think it's much, in this matchup, Sean McVay, Jonathan Gannon, a lot of the same players, was still a pretty good Rams offense last year. They scored 23 total points in 2 games. They averaged 11 and a half points. Also included, maybe the high moment of the Jonathan Gannon era, putting up a 40 burger on the Rams in like a 35-point victory early last season. And then they had a struggle fest defensive game later in the year. This Cardinals team is good enough to make you sweat, but then lose. They're 20th in DVOA, which is better than you would expect from a 3-9 team. They have 5.3 like estimated win. That sounds right. They actually seem like a 5-7 team, but I always think that really great teams coming off a loss, there is a human element, I think, where there's like the plexiglass principle. They bounce back generally, and I think they'll play their best. And I think they'll do it by running the ball. People don't, I think, realize how great they are running the ball. And even last week against Carolina, they are getting such good push up front for Corum and Kyron Williams. So I could see a game. This is not a fantasy show, Bill, but like where you got like a Bears thing going on where both Corum and Kyron Williams go over 100 yards and it's like 31-16 and it's just like a run fest for the Rams. That's the type of game. You can't lose in the division. They cannot lose this game in the division or else you actually let in San Francisco to win this division still. They're 4-1 in the division, San Francisco.
I have a question for you. We'll finish up, I guess, with that.
Yes. You got to go pick up your kid.
I do. Any reason to think Matthew Stafford's rough game last week? Fluke? Any reason to think it could stick around? Any reason to think that the Rams should be a little concerned at all?
No.
Or just kind of just a bad game?
Not at all, because a couple were just the type of turnovers that he makes consistently throughout his career. He's aggressive. And it happens he held the ball a little. No, because he played well the rest of the game. Like, they averaged almost 8 yards per play in that game. So that's a big fat no, because to me, he'll have some turnovers. It's kind of been fluky how few turnovers he's had, but he's probably my MVP right now if I had to choose one. We don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, Drake May.
We got 5
also
weeks.
in the conversation. We don't have to.
We got
different
5
show.
Weeks. We got 5
but,
weeks. Would you give Jonathan Gannon a 4th season, by the way?
Yes. Okay. I would. The defense is not the problem with this team. The offense is.
I love it. Bill,
the Cardinals are an okay team.
You said you were going to prep, and you did it, and we did it. And so everyone should check out. Who knows? We've got you. Maybe we can get Joe and Troy on a podcast, and we could introduce you guys.
I will. I'll pass that up the chain. We'll see. We'll see if that's likely to occur.
I'm seeing this from our great producer here that maybe there was going to be some combination. There's an article out here on a podcast of like maybe Schefter could be on NFL Network, and maybe me and you are now doing it together. We are the synergy, by the way, without even being asked. That they're asking for. Me, you, and Mina. We've already been doing it.
I'm the Trojan horse of NFL Network. It seems like
that's
I'm just bringing the bristiality over to Culver City, Los Angeles.
You made this multi-billion-dollar merger happen. Thank you, Bill. Go pick up your lovely child. And that's it for our preview show. We will be back on Thursday with an exciting recap. We've got a banger. It's Cowboys. It's Lions. That'll be up in the feed from Nick Shook and myself. And then, yes, all the weekend content with our picks. And Ollie, check us out on YouTube. And thank you to everyone who sent us their messages for being on your Spotify Wrapped. We love you.